All right, Kiasmo. So, um, what did you did you like this film at all? What did you think of it?
Uh, Immediately with the, with the hard hitting questions. Well, I respect some of it. I think it was a little bit of a mess, and I think it has to do with the fact that well, it's a live action adaptation of a whole manga of a whole anime into a 1 hour 23 minutes movie, which makes it both confusing and too plain at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, well, what I know about the original Cutie Honey manga
Hmm.
by the creator Go Nagai, I think it
Hmm.
came out back in the 70s or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of the original ones when it comes to this type of subject, like girls fighting weird creatures. So I can understand that it's probably the story is simple, but it doesn't mean. I think with the movie the problem is how they are telling the story rather than the story itself.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple story, and if I'm not mistaken, like the original manga itself was not like a very plot heavy thing. It was like a monster of the week.
Yeah,
Um,
from what little I know about like this, yes, which is fine.
yeah, so the genre that this film would come under is tokusatsu. So tokusatsu is basically stuff like Power Rangers or whatever.
Exactly. Sometimes you get the feeling that you're watching a strange yet tame version of Power Ranger. It's weird.
Yeah, I guess what they were going for was basically Power Rangers, but perverted a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, but even that's it's, and I'll voice my opinion later a bit more. Even in that aspect, wasn't really was kind of lacking.
yeah, we just see her going around in a bra, and her outfit. I guess it shows a little bit of cleavage, but
But not
yeah,
much.
not so much. Not, not enough for us. And yeah, what else is there to say? I guess about the outfits, given that it's a
Hmm.
tokusatsu, I thought that the heroine's Honey's outfit was a little bit. It looked a little bit like cosplay, which I
Yeah,
guess.
I think they went for functionality over fidelity,
Uh,
which since she's in quite a few fight scenes, kind of makes sense.
right in the documentary, I believe that the actress there's a documentary which comes with the DVD or the
Hmm.
torrent, as the case may be. Uh,
Shh, don't say.
yeah, uh, yeah, there's a documentary called "The Making of Cutie Honey," and
Hmm.
Hideaki Anno, the director, likes to make these
Yeah.
documentaries for stuff he makes.
Honestly, it's something that it's sort of a lost art because it's quite at times it's more interesting to see how they created an effect, how they created and composed a shot than the shot itself because it shows you the craftsmanship that goes behind it.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun to watch a movie about making a movie, sometimes more
Hmm.
than the movie itself. Um,
Yeah, which reminds me of. So let's just finish with this. We're saying that yeah, the actress comments on how the audience was rather comfortable to move in and didn't restrict her at all, which it's a good thing since she has to partake in a few fight scenes. The fight scenes got their own problems, but it's undeniable that she does her best to be as fluid and mobile as possible in them. And so must be why they went for that outfit compared to a more, um, let's say, loyal to the canon, loyal to the lore of the manga and the anime.
Yeah, I think in the documentary they try to excuse it by saying it's like the original, but we have updated it for
Yeah, it's
2004.
modernized, they
Yeah,
say.
modernized it for 2004.
Hmm.
Uh,
Which maybe it's a mixture of both. They wanted a more modern, and they wanted something that was more comfortable for the actors to move around.
so the gimmick, also when it comes to Cutie Honey, another gimmick I guess is that she constantly changes her outfit or whatever, and
Mhm.
even though it's an obvious disguise, people can't say it. So
But
so
that one I find it kind of charming. It's something that I really like in the movies or in cartoons when there is this sort of like idiosyncrasy between what the audience is witnessing, what the characters perceive.
so
Usually, when it's the opposite that I find it annoying when there is something that you should be like, oh, that's that person, but you cannot recognize the actor or the character because there is something conspicuous about them in that scene, and then you miss an important plot point.
yeah, I mean, in the um reception section, which I guess is the critical reaction section or whatever of the
Hmm.
Wikipedia article for the movie, some of the critics were saying that it it kind of felt like um, they were that the was just an excuse to show her in different outfits or whatever. Maybe that's a bit too harsh, but that's basically the gimmick.
Nah,
Uh,
there is exactly, it's a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that's relevant to the character. And honestly, it was done in a fun way. I think everyone was having fun doing it. You can see that the people on set in the making of are having a lot of crafting this movie. The actors and the actresses seem to be having a lot of fun. And I think honestly, as someone who watched the movie, I think it was one of the funny aspects of the movie, how she always changes her looks and fools everyone, even if sometimes it's obvious. And I think they play a little bit on this sort of meta-ironic side. Like when at one point she returns to the office dressed as a businessman, and you can clearly see that it's a woman with a pair of mustache, like plastered. And I find it like everyone mistakes her for someone like a new guy, a new. That was kind of funny because it was so obvious, a little bit like Clark Kent, uh, without the glass, and with the glasses, no one can recognize that it's Superman. And in this case, they played the card in the correct way, and it made it for some funny comedic moments here and there.
so at the start, or rather, when she is introduced
Hmm.
in the first battle or whatever fight, in the first fight,
Hmm.
um, and she explains this, she goes something like, sometimes I'm a biker girl, sometimes I'm
Yeah,
whatever, and going
I
through.
may be. I'm one moment I may be a biker, one moment be a police officer, then one of the close minions. But my true form is, and then she reveals
Yeah,
herself.
and then I believe that's when it breaks into this movie is a live action, but at that point it breaks into an anime opening. Um,
I kind of like how they kept these anime elements, like the um, the repeated main theme of the heroine. Her transformation is shown a few times, and then yes, there is like an opening, like if it would be a serial anime, like this is another episode, pretty much. And yet, at the same time, I must admit, I would rather watch fully animated. When I saw the animated sequences, I cannot deny they were very stylized and they were very interesting, even a bit more erotic than the movie.
Yeah, then you like you're in good luck because the opening actually comes from an anime series
I
um,
suspected so.
which which came out a couple of months later after this film was released, after this live
Oh,
action
so
film was.
this one was like sort of a teaser.
And I mean, not exactly, because the anime, and it's only 3 episodes long. It's an OVA.
Ah, okay.
Um, the but each episode is like 44 minutes.
Mm.
So it's not that short.
So let's say it's more like of their companion pieces rather than.
Yeah, they are companion pieces because I got the chance to watch the OVA as well, and
Hmm.
the OVA basically retells the same story as the film. But obviously it's more over the top because it's anime and it can be.
Yeah, of course.
uh, 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 it's also I don't know if already I'm repeating myself, but it's also directed by the same guy who directed this, by Hideaki
Hmm.
Anno. And yeah,
Yeah,
it
Anno is a good director, honestly, when it comes to. I think even with the movie, he did a good job.
the thing about Anno, the way that I think my feeling is that he ended up doing anime, but he really wants to do live action. That's what he wants to do, and that's what he's doing now. Anyway,
A little bit like Hideo Kojima resigned himself to work with video games, but he aspires to be a filmmaker.
yeah, and obviously, Anno's background, like his actual background, or like what got him into this pop culture stuff, creative stuff was originally tokusatsu. And
Hmm.
that's the live action which he's making now as well. I think Shin Ultraman and a bunch of other stuff. Um, of course, when it comes to tokusatsu, tokusatsu fans kind of excuse the childish CGI and effects. I don't know if I
They
can do the
prefer,
same.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that one of the appeals of that genre is the fact that everything is done with like sculpted models and costume. There is that honesty, that veracity behind it. Is like it's truly 100% what you see. It's what's happening for real,
yeah. It's
despite the limitations, of course,
mm,
and the minimal use of CGI, because there always was a little bit. They were painting on the frames sometimes and stuff like this, but it was m- more real than some of the CGI you see in this movie. And I'll be honest, some of it was really, really bad.
bad, really bad.
Some
Yeah.
of it I can say was done. I do believe some of it was done on purpose in that kitsch, campy, cheesy way. So you are laughing with it. Other times I was laughing at it. And I don't
Yeah.
think it was the entire movie.
Yeah. The last thing I guess about the anime would be that there's a lot more nudity in it, like it's not like serious. Like it's
No, no, it's that kind of sort of juvenile
yeah.
fan service, but at the same time kind of ironic. I
Uh,
bet.
yeah,
I
and yeah, in a way, it's because of that, it's actually more true to the source material, or the manga,
mm,
uh, which was all about nudity, essentially. Sure,
it
that sort of thing, and
it was sort of that thing in between violence and sexy stuff that it's very common in Japanese manga, I think.
yeah,
And I think that's what disappointed me, because the beginning seemed to be like the story is very cheesy, the characters are over the top, the acting is over the top, the editing, a lot of things, the camera work, they are really good because they try to give you the feeling of a real life anime. This is how life would be if it were an anime. which was a very interesting thing, honestly. The problem is, and this is weird because I always say, I'm a Christian, I believe in certain things, etc. I'm against pornography, but at the same time, being Italian and having watched enough movies that fall under what is called the Italian style sexy comedy. I know it's a very niche thing, but I think here Japan and Italy are very close. Um, I felt this was a lot of tears without much behind it. It felt almost shy, almost like there was a prudish side to the movie. And then maybe it's because I can understand. In real life, forcing an actress to do certain things would be kind of rude, to say the least. But it felt really tame, the fan service and everything. It sort of lacked that kind of scantily juvenile irreverence, I would say, that you find in those Italian movies and the Japanese manga and anime that pretty much inspired and were the forefathers of this whole genre. I was sort of disappointed.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess they leaned a little bit too much into like the protagonist like being this like sexy but kind of oblivious.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's honestly, I kind of like that, the obliviousness, sort of the one of the appeals, like all the misunderstanding, it's again, it's something that is present in both the Japanese manga of that genre and the Italian sexy comedy. It's like this kind of like, whoops, I accidentally removed my shirt. Whoops, my bra got undone somehow, and this kind of things. Instead, I don't know. In this movie, it felt there was a sort of cheapness to this, and it cheapened the appeal of the story to a degree. I'm not saying it needs to be smart. I'm not saying I need to show, but they didn't show enough to be interesting. And I know
yeah,
again, it comes sort of weird saying this as someone that is sort of a traditional Catholic, but I'm a furry as well, so you
yeah,
have to excuse.
yeah. I think they were going for the sort of um b- b- childish kind of not exactly
Mhm.
Lolita, but like oh she doesn't know that or maybe she
Yeah,
knows. Yeah.
exactly. But again, it's something that it's a playfulness that in many movies, anime, manga coming out of Japan, they always play. Even I remember there is a number is Final Fantasy 12, where at one point there is a scene where, and the characters are also related. I think they are cousins. There is these three ladies taking a bath in a sort of sacred pool, and one of them start to tease another one about the size of her breasts. So it's one of the most awkward scenes I think in video game is. And these elements of the bizarrely sexually charged was sort of missing. Don't get me wrong, you see plenty of scenes with her in her under, and I must say the body of the actress playing on Cutey, she has a beautiful body. So, and I'm not saying this in a perverted way. She truly has a beautiful body. But at the same time, it's very tame. I'd say even too tame.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I find the juxtaposition of her beautiful grown woman body and her kind of childlike slash childish mentality, because in the story it's explained pretty much her mind was reset, and she's like she was resetted and she's like a child pretty much. So that makes sense, and I find it only compelling. Then there is this just a position of the body of a full grown woman with the mentality of a child. It's kind of weird. It's kind of risque. I would even use that term. It seems to almost cross into the taboo area, but then the movie doesn't. Seems like they are not fully committed to go all the way with this bizarreness, and that's what ruins it a little.
Mm. For example, in the anime, which has the same characters basically, um, there's a scene where like Cutie Honey needs to be saved by the police woman. What's her name again?
Hmm.
I can't remember. Anyway, the
Natsuko Aki.
Aki. Let's just call her Aki. So Aki
Remember
had
because I remember because it's one of the few kanjis I can. So,
uh,
Natsuko Aki.
Natsuko Aki. So like she has to save Cutie Honey by giving her a kiss, and so it's sort of like um, it's sort of,
That kind of role play that the Japan.
yeah. I guess maybe that's what missing here in terms of be, yeah, but because like um, at
The
that
playfulness,
yeah
maybe. Yes.
um uh, all right w- so going back to the movie, I felt like the first fight scene was pretty good.
Yes. Yes. The first 15 minutes I felt really good. Um, bad CGI aside, it was impressive to see so many cars, so many extras, all the like nowadays they will go like low CGI even just for the cars and all the minions. They do it later on, but it works better when there's like a couple of shots that is they talk about how their legion is growing stronger in numbers, and there is this sort of camera move and panning back and show hundreds upon hundreds, thousands upon thousands of the minions of the Panther Claw, and you can see that it's CGI. But in that case, it works well enough because it's just to emphasize how powerful this group has gotten. But the scene at the beginning when they are on the highway on the sea and you see all the cops' cars and all the police officers with with the riot shields gives you a real sense of scale.
I don't think
And
yeah.
sorry, go first.
I don't think you could make like a making of documentary for the for something like the Marvel movies because like whenever
Uh,
whenever they show like the actors doing the action scenes, it just looks so depressing because like
yeah.
it's all it's all a green screen.
Mhm. The funny thing about the Marvel movies are outtakes where the more human side of the characters of the actors playing the characters shines through. I remember there is a very funny gif of it's a scene from the first Avengers where Thor is about to grab his hammer back and you can see the actor misses the grab and the hammer like bounces off his hands and he tries to grab it again and he cannot catch it and tries a third time and everyone around and the actor start to laugh, and that's the best part I think of filmmaking. Something wrong in the best way possible, you catch it on camera, and everyone will think about that moment and laugh about, it. And you can share it with your audience. And this way, you break through the fourth wall and you connect even deeper. Because I think when you rely too much on CGI, you are missing these outtakes. You are missing more human side of any work of art. Because sometimes failure can lead to even more interesting than the final product. In a
Like just seeing the actors like in this giant green room,
mm,
you know doing stuff. It's almost like watching some kind of an absurdist comedy or something.
Yeah, with them doing strange movements and gestures.
And pretending that they see things which they obviously don't
Yeah,
see.
you can
Um,
imagine the actors, for example, in a movie like the first Jurassic Park, with their animatronics, and for example, the scene in the rain inside the jeep gets turned over, and the T-Rex looking at them, pushing the glass, and that was a real thing. And compared to the new Jurassic World movies, where it's like 99.9% people just pretending to react to something happening on screen with oh, there is a dinosaur here chomping this guy, and pretend to be scared.
um,
So yeah, the first 10, 15 minutes, I think they are really good. And they show probably the best and the worst that the movie has to offer, in a sense.
yeah, I think basically the movie just slows down too much for me anyway after this.
It's
Uh,
not even the. I think it's rather than slowing too much. I understand why they did that. It's like you start with a bombastic scene. Cutey fights one of the four main henchmen of the main villain, and so you need to go full blown and show all the stuff, all the cool gadgets she has, all her powers, and then maybe you slow down a little bit. But I do understand what you mean. Maybe they went a bit too much in the mundane after those initial scenes.
yeah, so the way that I came across this film as well was through some clips from this fight scene, specifically the one which I'm showing on screen, which is basically her jumping up in the air, and I don't know if it's stop animation or stop motion animation or what it is that
Hmm.
they're doing there. Like they also do that again when um so they do it first when she jumps into the middle of the minions, and again when she tries to avoid
Yeah,
the missiles
the
from
missiles from Gold
Gold
Claw.
Claws. Yeah.
I think it works there because it's one of those cases where the CGI is sort of bad on purpose, and they use the limitations to their advantage because it's very stylish. Seems almost like, I do believe the first 15 minutes they show the best aspects because it's all framed a little bit like a manga. There are a lot of quick cuts. For example, when they introduce Atsuko, the chief of police lady, there are those quick cuts that show her demeanor, her face. You can see, oh, this is a serious woman. She takes her job very seriously. She she's 100% focused on her job, and that's it. She truly is that kind of like stern woman who has no other interest. And then you see throughout the movie how the queen she is. So they do a very good job by introducing her that way. And the editing, the pacing works in unison with the visuals.
But
Whereas later on, I think that's what happens. That the editing becomes more like closer to a regular movie.
exactly. But by the way, in the OVA anime, they give the policewoman a background. That the reason why she wants to do everything alone is because uh, her previous colleague died while doing the job with her, and now she doesn't want to make any any friends or whatever.
Sort
Uh,
of cliched, but you can sort of feel that even protecting those around her, she doesn't want to get tied to people because she's afraid they'll hurt her. And as cliched as it is, it's sort of a good cliche. There is nothing wrong with tropes and even stereotypes when it comes to crafting certain characters. And the character is quite nice. I kind of liked her, and I've been seeing a few images of the characters from the manga and the anime, I think they chose someone that fits very well for the role. I cannot blame the casting. That's absolutely something that I think they nailed. All the characters seem to be tailored to the actors, and the actors tailored for the characters. So that's a good thing. That's a big plus for me. I really like when the characters match the actors that are portraying them.
They do look like a bunch of anime characters, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Es
Exactly.
especially the reporter, I would say, uh,
Yeah.
um, which is very and obvious. Anyway, yeah. So after that, okay. So I guess we could explain the plot a little bit.
Yeah. The plot is not very difficult to follow. It's just the editing and sometimes the storytelling is a little bit clumsy. But you wanna
Okay.
go and give
Um.
it a quick rundown?
So what I'm going to read out is a Google Translate of of an archived version of the official page website promotional website of this movie. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
action comedy about the activities of the beautiful girl warrior Cutie Honey. The director is Hideaki Anno of Shikijitsu. So yeah, Shikijitsu is a live action, kind of an artsy, but by my standards, by my standards anyway, it's an artsy art movie by Hideaki Anno, and I think at this time he hadn't done a lot of live action. So this was obviously after Evangelion. I mean, I don't. I guess we should say that Hideaki Anno directed Evangelion. Yeah, he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the reason why they credit him with that here is because that was one of the only live action stuff which he had done. And I imagine that the live action audience is a little bit different from the anime
Yeah,
audience.
probably true.
So
Probably.
it's based on the comic of the same name by Go Nagai. Um, Somebody called Takahashi and director Ano co-wrote the script. I tried to find it to see if I could find anything about Rumi Takahashi because it's just because it's a very similar. It's a very similar name to the more famous Rumiko Takahashi. The woman who the mangaka who made Ranma
Mm,
and Urusei Yatsura and came up with a bunch of tropes related to anime rom-coms.
yeah,
But no, it's not. It's
especially
not her.
body swapping, this kind of.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not her. It's some other person. Um, so some Kosuke Matsushima is in charge of shooting. I don't know who that is. And Eriko Sato plays Kyuuchi-chani. I looked a little bit at her wiki, and well, she's an actress. But she also used to be a Gravio idol.
Well, may I be honest? Given how beautiful she is, I wasn't too surprised when you dropped this truth bomb to me. I was already sheltered enough.
um, so here's the story. So Dr. Utsuki, who inherited the research of eye system. So, by the way, the eye in eye system. Um, I think so. I watched it. I watched the subtitles.
Hmm.
The subtitle version. And they just call it the in the subtitles they call it the eye system. I as in I
Like I myself,
self
yeah.
and I. Yeah. But when I watched the anime in the anime subtitles, this they translate it as I. That's AI.
Hmm. Like the eye. with
which
which you see
which means love in Japanese. I means love in Japanese.
love,
So
which makes sense because one of the themes is well, she's covered in in hearts, and one of the theme of the story is that, in a sense, it seems almost satirical, power of love, but it's very light-hearted how it tackles. Maybe
yeah,
that's why they went. They were already making fun of this trope, probably in the original manga serialization.
yeah, and apparently it's powered by imagination and nanobots. um, so um, so Dr. Usuki, who inherited the research of the eye system developed by Dr. Kisaragi. Dr. Kisaragi is Cutey Hani's father, uh,
Hmm.
who is dead. So Dr. Utsuki is kidnapped by the mysterious secret organization Pentaclaw, led by Sister Jill.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, but I co- again because I watched the anime, it comes to mind. But in the anime, like it's an actual woman who plays well the voice anyway
Yeah.
for Sister Jill, whereas in the live action it's a man
Yeah.
kind of dressed up as a monster
I
woman.
think it was done on purpose.
Yeah. By the way, it's not the same. The first time that I've seen. So Sister Jill is basically a tree, right?
Yeah,
Or is becoming a tree.
or something that has to do more with plants that with
I think
animals.
yeah, I believe that the reason for that is because Sister Jill was apparently made, at least according to the anime, by Dr. Kisaragi to be. I think that, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense because in the film it is implied that Sister Jill has been alive for thousands of years or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Anyway, in the anime, they kind of explain it by saying that like she was made with by combining the eye system with plant cells, whereas honey was made by combining the eye system with human cells, basically
Hmm.
Dr. Kisaragi's dead daughter's cells. Um,
Well, maybe it could be that since in the movie they talk about how she's being rebirthed, like Sister Jill is being rebirthed thousands of times. Could be that in a sense she's a was before the eye system, but then she kind of became aware, she became conscious, she became truly alive, like we see it right now after the experiments. Maybe that's why.
yeah, and yeah,
Sort of like the plant, like the original plant material used was indeed very ancient. The experiment was conducted wrong.
don't they call her the tree of life or something? Or maybe I'm
At
misremembering.
one point, I think so.
Yeah.
They refer to something like that. And they use those
You know,
exact words, but it's sort of implied.
yeah, because it's not it's not the first time that I've seen an anime where like well, it's not an anime, but might as well be, uh,
Hmm.
where like the villain is the tree of life or something, which always kind of it's a bit
Yeah,
funny.
it's one of those sort of like Masonic slash Gnostic themes that Japanese authors really like to play with because it's something so foreign to them, yet it blends really well with the Shintoist culture of their country.
Hmm. So anyway, so Pantaclo is led by Sister Jill. They aim for the heart choker, which is the body of the eye systems that brings
Hmm.
eternal beauty. So that's apparently why they want the heart choker, which Cutie Honey can use to transform herself or whatever. Um, and it is Dr. Kisaragi's beloved daughter, Kisaragi Honey, the love warrior, Cutie Honey. Honey, an android that can be that can transform into Cutie Honey by touching a choker, rescues Dr. Utsugi from Pantaclo, who killed her father. Yeah, yeah. So she rescued Dr. Utsugi in cooperation with um, Aki Natsuko, a policewoman in the Public Security Bureau of the National Police Agency, and Aoki Hayami, a newspaper reporter. Um, uh, yeah, the reason why I'm stopping is because I'm reading a Google translated thing, so I'm trying to say it in a way that makes sense. Um, Honey has to defeat the four gods, the warriors sent by Sister Jill. Um, I think that they're basically spoiling the plot here because the way that it's written here, Honey, who defeated the four god warriors sent by Sister Jill, extinguished Sister Jill, started a detective agency with Hayami, who was actually an agent of the American intelligence agency.
Yeah, that's at the really like at the really end of the movie.
Yeah,
the,
that's
the story ends, and here the
yeah.
spoiler.
And so with Hayami and with Natsuko, who resigned from the National Police Agency. Yeah, it's at the very end. I don't know. Like speaking of Hayami being, in the subtitles, they say that he's from the NSA. I don't know what the dub
Mm.
said. Um,
Yeah, they say the same.
said the same. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was always kind of obvious. But I guess they weren't even trying to make it a mystery. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. What did you think of the quote unquote four gods sent by Sister Jill against? Uh,
I kind of like the designs, but the fight scenes were kind of. Eh.
yeah, yeah,
No offense, I understand that trying to stage a fight as it were an anime is easy,
yeah,
but
yeah. Okay. I can't even remember their names. So let's see if I can find them.
so it was. I remember them. So it's Black Claw. That is the last one that Cutioni has to face. It's a Crimson Claw, penultimate she has to face. Golden Claw that she fights at the beginning and then gets killed by Sister Jill for failing her. And then there is Cobalt Claw, that's the weird fetishist dominatrix one that gets pretty much boiled alive by Oni Cutioni, um, pretty much going full overcharge.
Yeah. I guess if there is another problem with the battles other than, I mean, for example, I guess with the anime thing with Black Claw, they try to go full anime with like the minions playing violence or
Yeah, it was kind of weird in the right way, them playing the violin and everything.
yeah. I think I probably so obviously the best fight is the one with gold claw,
Hmm.
which again was the first one. Um, and I guess it's I also liked um, the minions in the first fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a name for them, but like it's kind of nice how like they're trying to do they're all trying to do the same thing,
Hmm.
essentially mimicking each other almost.
Yeah, they're like mindless goons, literally.
Um, I guess a problem with all the fight scenes, like it didn't seem like Cutie Honey was in any trouble for the most
Hmm.
part in any of them. Uh,
Yeah, they were lacking in when it came to tension, the risk of them. Um, they make it seems like there are some stakes, but it really does feel kind of cheap.
I think the worst one was probably Crimson Claw, who
Yeah, it lasts like 30 seconds.
yeah in the dub sorry in the sub she's called Scarlet Claw, but yeah
Oh, okay.
her only power is that she can launch a missile or power charge or whatever from her
Hmm.
mouth, and she threatens to I guess destroy the city and kill people, but we never see people getting dying anyway, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and
Like she destroyed pretty much three buildings, piercing a giant hole through them, but it's only for comedic relief, where you see um, Cutioni's real life job place being demolished, and and her boss pretty much being scared by the events unfolding, and that's it.
in
And
ter-
then the second time, um, Scarlet slash Crimson Claw tries to fire her ball of energy, and just Cutioni just bats it back to her like if it was a baseball match, and that's how she defeats it. And that's it.
so the worst CGI I can remember was with the Dominatrix kind of team, the uh, Cobalt Claw, right? Or they're like she's walking on the ceiling, and you can clearly see that it's CGI. I
No,
mean,
that was really, really, really bad. Like
yeah.
amateurish, honestly. I don't want to sound rude.
I mean, there was
I
some.
understand it's 2004, so we need to consider 2001 is when the Phantom Menace came out, and that was a big budget movie.
Um, yeah, I mean, the other place where I noticed a pretty bad CGI was like, in the first fight scene with
Yes.
Gold Cloven. She uses that thing on her head
Mm-hmm.
to throw around Cutie Honey,
Yeah, it
and
was really almost painful to watch.
um, in terms of the costumes, I liked. Black clothes costume, but it was obvious that it was a guy with makeup. A little bit too obvious with him.
Yeah.
Um, one color for half of his face and the other. Still not. Yeah, I guess it's all right. Um, um. Okay, I guess Sister Jill had another minion. Um, right, the butler.
Yeah.
Mm,
Which was honestly kind of an interesting character. Of all the characters, I felt at the end, especially, it was the one that showed the most interesting development in a sense. You can feel his dedication to Sister Jill's cause.
Yeah. I think they did much better in the film than in the anime, because in the anime, like, it was just just a clone of Dr. Kisaragi, Cutie Honey's father,
Mm.
and they just used that. Basically, Sister Jill just uses that as a way to try to manipulate Cutie Honey, but that's kind of cheaper than um, what happens in the film, which is basically I guess the battle deciding to die, and quote unquote being forever with Sister Jill, or
Mm-hmm.
something. As as the castle, the tower, whatever. I think it's called Jill Tower or something. Um, collapses, and it collapses, and Tokyo Tower is somehow still
Yeah.
still okay.
Still intact
Okay.
somehow.
Yeah. I mean, the reason you don't really see Tokyo Tower that much in anime these days.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because it's no longer like the tallest building there. Now it's just some generic skyscraper thing. Um, um, yeah, but I believe Tokyo Tower is like, but you do see. I think the latest thing which I saw Tokyo Tower in were uh, Tokyo Mew Mew, if you remember that.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think I saw a few episodes of that anime.
and You Are Under Arrest, which I can't remember the Italian title, but you might have seen it as well. Like, it's about a bunch of female police officers.
No, that one I never.
Yeah, okay. And in that one, but it used to be more common. Like, you see it, I believe, in Ashita no Jo. Um, and probably the reason why they included it here is because this manga is back from the 70s, and
Yeah.
Tokyo Tower used to be more relevant back then, than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in the behind the scenes or whatever, in the making of documentary, you get to see, I guess, the model which they used. I kind of thought that it was CGI, honestly.
I think it's because of the green screen that they used wasn't really good. I think the lighting background, therefore it looks like a 3D model slapped on top of the scenery. But that's difficult. It's very difficult to pull out a stunt like that because you need to get the light just right. Otherwise, you always will look rather weird and out of place.
Um, so I mean, basically they kind of tried to, like, make it a big bad
Hmm.
final battle, and it didn't really work, really.
No, not really.
But I thought that the throne room was a bit decent, though.
No,
Um,
no. The set for the throne room and even some of the more emotional moments worked rather well. I really like the set design, the color palettes, and even the tone of some of the scenes. But at the same time, it felt a little bit, at the same time, too over the top and too bland. Somehow, I don't know how to explain it. It feels they overemphasize certain things while underplaying others, and so there is this weird contrast between certain things that seem too mundane and others that seem too over the top.
I think the best example of the too mundane side would be. I get it that they try to do it as a character development scene, but the scene where, like, Hayami, the reporter, the policewoman, what's her name, Aki,
Hmm.
and Cutie Honey. Um, they're all like having karaoke. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, that scene felt a little bit too um, too boring, I guess.
Yeah. Almost to irritating degree.
Oh, right. Um, what else is there to say about this series? So, um, what rating would you give this film?
I don't know. I enjoyed some aspects of it, but I felt it was too tame in certain regards, and that it felt a bit too cheap. I would say it's still entertaining. It's still fun to see the overacting and whatever they show us main character. So I would say it's a six.
I would
It's
also,
worth watching it
yeah,
once.
yeah, yeah, it's basically a 6.5 sets or something like that. No more than
I'm
that.
seeing Fahrenheit is being way harsher than us. He just wrote now his score. He says it's a 4 out of 10,
Oof.
and he left a short review. Wanna read it?
Yeah, let's do it. So, Cutie Honey Thoughts and Review. So this is by Fahrenheit, who who I guess wanted to be part of today's stream, but unfortunately was unable to. So I just very quickly. So this is Fahrenheit. I just very quickly want to give some of my takes on Cutie Honey, seen as I went through all the trouble to watch the film and the behind the scenes. I am disappointed that I am not able to come on the stream and talk about it directly with you guys, but my other commitments got in the way today. It really is murderously hot right now too. I'm actually sitting at at a computer topless right now, so I don't pass out here. Okay, thank you for letting us know. Um, I don't know if he would agree or not, but I view Anno's live action films from this period to be his side passion projects. Seen Love and Pop, that Ultraman student film he made, and now this. So having seen Love and Pop, another live action by Anno, which we talked about on this channel, um, that Ultraman student film he made, and now this, I think I can say that these low or even no budget films are always going to be interesting in one way or another. I can't say exactly that Cutie Honey is a good film, but it is very entertaining. The directing is good, especially in the first fight scene between Cutie Honey and Golden Claw, where the music nicely matches up with what we see on screen, and many of the special effects aren't god awful either. I have never watched the anime it's supposed to be adapting, so I don't really know if the character designs are all that accurate. Well, so there's an anime, but the reason why um, the character designs um, and in the anime and the film look similar is also because um, they were side the projects were worked on at the same time, so that probably played a part too. Um, so I have never watched the anime. It's supposed to. Okay, I'm reading the same sentence. Um, uh, okay, I'll read it again. I've never watched the anime that it's supposed to be adapting, so I don't really know if the character designs are all that accurate. From the brief research I did, basically, um, from the brief research I did basically find out that every character outside of the main protagonist are original. Um, yeah. So the reason why the same characters are there in the anime again is because the OVA at least. Is because these projects were worked on at the same time. An interesting thing to note here is that the costume Cutie Honey wears in the live action film is positively decent compared to the way way more skimpy attire her original wears in the anime. Um, I guess the star actress freezing to death in the middle of shooting an outdoor scene was something they wanted to avoid. Um, I guess so. So have no fear, however. Mr. Anno has still managed to bring much fan service to the big screen. Thank goodness. Trust us. Having popular Japanese model Eriko Sato running around in plastic bags is vital to the plot. Um, Directing this film must have been a very interesting experience to those involved. I'm fairly certain that Mr. Anno managed to capture at least 100 gigabytes of Eriko's ass. Um, the film features six very unique villains. The main villain is called Sister Jill. There's not really much to say about her other than the fact that she, quote unquote she, is the head of of Pantaclaw, and so gets to order around more interesting characters. Um, these subordinates are called Golden Claw, Black Claw, Scarlet Claw, and Cobalt Claw, each of whom have managed to escape the set of Takeshi's castle. What's Takeshi's castle?
Takeshi's Castle. Uh, it's sort of a challenge. It's a set of challenges that different people have to go. It's like a gauntlet, and there are weird characters. Like there are people dressed up as ogres, Japanese mythology, or as creature early styrofoam boulders at people. It's like it's a weird challenge like series of challenges that various participants have to go through to money at the end.
I
You
see.
need to watch it. It's really fun.
Is it a film?
No, it's a TV show. It's more like imagine a TV show where you need to go through an obstacle course, but with characters, pretty much,
I see.
that dictate who's going to fail or pass the trial. Kind of weird.
So the Scarlet Claw fight is the most enough, closely followed by Cobalt Claw, closely followed by Black Claw. Um, Thinking about it, the only fight worth watching in this film is the fight with Golden Claw before the title card comes up. The sixth distinct villain is Butler. He's just a butler to Sister Jill. His acting was good, and that's about it. Um, all right, I guess there was an American uh, trying to get intel on Cutie Honey, but that subplot is boring and ultimately unimportant. Um, I was surprised at the ending. Things got way more real than I had anticipated. How Cutie Honey missed her father was well established, so that made their final farewell quite tragic. Alright, I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Hopefully, this wasn't too much to read. I can pass out now from the heat. Love Fahrenheit. I think that's kisses, kisses, kisses.
Yes, exactly.
Um, read this if you have time. 4 out of 10. You thought I think you also said that you found some of the emotional moments.
Yeah, towards the end, it was the emotional moments were rather earned. Even the butlers sort of final sacrifice devotion to Sister Gilles was rather earnest. It felt earned and real.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice to see a character which is evil but
Mm-hmm.
loyal, I guess.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. What about um, I guess the resolution with because it kind of made a little bit more sense in the anime. That uh, y- that like there was some connection between Jill and Dr. Kisaragi, Honey's father, but because in the film, like it's like Jill gets to see um, Honey's love for her father
Mm-hmm.
or something.
In a sense, that's what destroys Sister Jill's will to power
Yeah,
and defeat.
yeah, it makes a little bit more sense in the anime because both Jill um, and Honey were created um,
Mm-hmm.
by Dr. Kisaragi, I guess. Um, Whereas here, like, she's like, yeah, yeah, you are right. Suddenly,
Mm-hmm. Literally, well, what's the name? That is like it's a term that they make fun of. It's like it's when the character is able to talk to death a villain. There is a term that they use in the anime community to make fun of it.
talk no jutsu.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's the same thing, pretty much. Even if I can understand why Sister Jill was defeated, like it was something that she never had to face before. Real, true love for some, and the desire of risking it all for the love of the person. So it wasn't Taku no Jitsu 100%, but close enough.
Yeah,
It still felt like they earned it. It was honest enough. It wasn't great, but it worked.
yeah, because I guess I didn't really I didn't really see that. I guess I mean, or rather, have seen this a lot of times in anime. I don't know why, but they like to do this thing about how miserable immortality is or something. And I guess that's sort of um, what Honey's character ends up kind of being as well, because you know the butler says
Mhm,
that you will also to Honey, you will also come to know uh, Lord Jill's or whatever, Sister Jill's suffering, whatever, and the meaninglessness, and then she
mhm,
just smiles back and says, "No, that won't happen because I love the world and the people in it." Something
mhm.
simple like that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of sort of cliched, but it was okay.
that's okay.
I understand the meaning behind it, like saying them in a sense love, but I think they are trying to say even suffering is part of life and it's worth going through all of it.
Mm,
It's not a bad message
yeah.
in itself.
So, so another thing which Fahrenheit here said was that the American trying to get intel on Cutey Honey, so basically the quote unquote reporter, that it was boring and ultimately
Yeah, it
unimportant.
wasn't really interesting. I agree. There is this character wearing shades. It's shady as well, and it's like trying to decommission both Sister Jill and Cutiani with a device, but the Japanese reporter instead uses the device to sort of weaken Sister Jill because Sister Jill feeds off the life essence of women. There's like there is a subplot about kidnapped women and then it's discovered that it's the four claws that kidnap them to turn them into a food source for Sister Jill.
I- in in
And
in the anime, it's better because um what she feeds on. I think she kid uh, Jill kidnaps 10,000 women, and she feeds on the last of 10,000 women, rather than their life force or whatever. But
that's not very clear in the
yeah, um, they didn't want to go all the way. I guess the problem that the series has is that there's these two characters, but they can't really do anything in a fight. So they need an excuse to keep them around. And I guess the excuse in um, Hayami, the reporter's case, is that anti-nano machine, nanobot
yeah,
thing. Um, Whereas I guess the police officer saves the professor, but then
yeah,
gets kidnapped instead.
exactly.
Um,
She's like becomes a bargaining chip.
yeah, I mean,
Even if she's the one that activates Cutey
oh yeah, that's that too. Yeah,
her, so she has a reason to. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
then
it's
she saves the day too. They
yeah,
work as a team, so for once it's not just an hollow friendship saves the day. They actually work as a team, fight everything.
it just coincidentally all goes right.
Sort of.
Sort of. All right. There's no point to discuss. Yeah, I guess we could talk about who best girl is because I guess there's two contestants.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a close call in this case. I think on one side you've got super naive and kinda curvy Cutioni, and on the other side there is Natsuko, the policewoman with her tough attitude and the glasses on a brunette, which was
Mm-hmm. Mm, yeah, it's a bit of a hard
you go
one.
first.
Uh, I think yeah, I think I'll go with Aki's character. How about you?
Probably
Mm.
same.
So
She wins because at the end she also smiled. Sorry, game over.
yeah, you can't defeat that.
And she, even if the glasses are, she knows.
Yeah. Um, I think how long have we been talking? An hour and 13 minutes. Hmm.
Just like the movie.
Just like the movie, yeah. And I think that that's probably just about enough, unless you have anything else in your notes left.
Uh, let me double check, but I think we spoke pretty much about everything. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'd say it's worth a watch. Something, like I said before, is something that you can enjoy both in an ironic and way, but mostly in an ironic way. Its shortcomings, like for a night pointed out, it's mostly because of the lack of budget. But you can feel that there is passion behind it, especially if you watch the making of. You can see that they really try their best, and they use a lot of the CGI is not so abundant that the movie, but because it's a low budget effort, yeah, that sort of makes it a little bit jarring, especially the final part with the big battle and everything. You can really feel if they had a larger budget, way back. Still, what they achieved, um, it's commendable. I can respect both Anno as a director and a creator. It's a very flawed yet interesting.
I guess if there was one thing which I guess one emotional thing which was unconvincing was when you know the whole thing about like um uh, 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 revenge is when Hayami tells
Yeah,
Honey.
it doesn't go anywhere. The reporter tries to say, "Oh, but revenge is what you really want. You need to find out what your real in a sense the real call to save the world, not out of hatred, but for the sake of people in the world. Very cliched, but in a sense they make it's sort of ironic, sort of makes fun of itself. But yeah, it could have been cut out, and no one would have about this
Yeah,
subplot. Yeah.
I guess they try to they try to show that when Cutey kills what's her name Cobalt
Cobalt
Claw,
Claw.
that she
She
go.
almost she overeats pretty much. She she's an android, therefore she has to control herself. Otherwise, sort of like energy reserves go too low and she collapses.
Yeah, but
But
like the problem with that is that like there's no bad consequences for her like losing her
mhm,
control. Um,
exactly.
like if she had gone crazy and I don't know killed someone or hurt someone or hurt Aki who was next,
Yeah.
then yeah then she could be oh yeah I've been blinded by revenge or whatever.
Mhm.
But that doesn't really happen. Nothing. Yeah, there's no consequences. That
It's sort of implied that she releases, she like overeats, and that can be dangerous, but it's not shown. And I kind of like how in battle with Black Claw, she sort of plays dirty because she shoots her boomerang and pierces his stomach pretty much. She kills him. She kills him this way, and it's a very well. It's kind of dark because she's like the paladin of love, this and that. she she kills someone in a rather gruesome way.
yeah, yeah.
She plays dirty in that
Uh,
fight in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah. I mean, even like at the start of that fight, if you remember, like when um when Black Claw like suddenly starts singing, um,
Hmm.
she has a very she puts on a very smug look on her face. If you remember, if you
Yeah,
can recall that.
that's so true.
Like seriously, not exactly the face of a paladin of justice.
Hmm.
I
I
guess.
kind of like the contrast between her like outward personality of this very naive person, and then when she becomes Cutey, there is sort of a almost brush demeanor to her.
Yeah,
She she doesn't seem to care about the effects of her actions on her enemies. It's Batman who doesn't kill bad guys. She seems to be fine with
y-
causing collateral damages or even just them.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's sort of a plot point in the anime, but that she causes a lot of collateral damage, but and she feels guilty about it for 5 minutes, I guess. Uh, um, yeah. Okay. Um. Yeah, I was going to say something, but I totally forgot what it was. So yeah, Cutie Honey. Go and watch it, I guess.
Yeah, at least one watch.
At least
Not a
watch.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least watch the first 15 minutes or so.
Yes, the first fight you can see in a sense is where they. Uh, I think they put most of the effort when the visuals and the style they wanted to go for. Probably it was more um, what they wanted to the whole movie to be, but they try to push the limits, proof of concept, and then the rest of the movie sadly couldn't really live up to the same levels of insanity.
So I read somewhere that there was a Kill Bill reference or something. Did you see it? No, no.
Mm, to be honest, the movie gave me a little bit of Kill Bill vibe. I won't deny that. I was thinking times about that Tarantino's movie, but I'm not sure where the reference is.
Yeah, same here. I haven't watched Kill Bill, so I don't. I
I
can't really
watched
say.
both of them. They are good movies, and it's interesting because Tarantino for these two movies got influenced by Japanese movies. So to quote George Lucas, it sort of rhymes. Yes.
Mm. All right. And with that said, let's end the stream.